Well, good evening, everyone. Oh, hang on. We got this. What is owner? I don't know who owner is, IT team, so I don't want to let someone in that I don't know who it is. Yeah, I don't know who that is. Oh, they dropped off. So,
Well, Joy might be called.
well, it needs to be under her name then.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Hughes is trying to get on. We'll hang tight just a few more seconds. Let's see here. There we go, Robbie. I don't know. I don't know who owner is. So
You got me now?
got you now, sir. So
I can't get on it on any computer. I can't get on, so it won't let me on.
Even your city IT, sir, your city iPad.
It's trying to update Zoom and it won't update it, so I'm having to go for my phone. So
Okay.
which is
Sorry
fine.
about that.
Not a problem. I just wanted y'all to know that's why I'm a little late in getting to the party.
It's an Apple device.
Yeah, I know.
But my Apple device did get me to the party on my phone, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to remove the owner. I don't know who that is. I don't know. I mean, anybody that works for the city should be.
It might be me on my phone. Is it me on my phone?
I don't think so. But we see you loud and clear on your. I thought you were on your phone right now.
I am. I don't know.
No, we see you and it says Robbie. It's got your name. You're not trying to be. All right, now here's Josh Street. So, and I assume AB is Alan Branch, but he's being shy, camera shy right now.
Sorry, I'm in the car.
Oh, okay. But we recognize your voice, unless this is AI acting like Mayor Branch. Okay. All right.
Alive.
There we go. Proof of life. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, all right. I see Commissioner Lucas and now Commissioner Street's on and Granger's on. All right. So I know, Mr. Mayor, as we talked about, this is a kind of a combination. We've got all the players in the room to talk about all things property. We have Sean Self, our logistics director, who's over the purchasing division, to just talk about city-owned parcels in general. We also have Ms. Ware over housing, and then we've got our CRA staff here, as well as the city attorney. So, but this is just a general conversation on the disposition of property. We know that I think we all collectively agree that the city owns too many parcels in general across the whole city, and we need to have a systematic way to address those and what's the best way to dispose of them. And so, tonight's virtual workshop is specifically for that purpose. And I know that Commissioner Hughes has talked about at a number of public meetings and private meetings how with myself and Mr. Zimmerman that he has some thoughts. And I did he crafted something and I circulated that at his request yesterday afternoon. And so I'll turn it over to Commissioner Hughes. So all yours, sir. Oh, you're muted, Commissioner. Commissioner, you're muted.
That better?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Thank you, guys. So it's I think we got all this real estate and we're going to need to get rid of. And what I'd like for us to talk about first, and I'm going to apologize. I sound like I'm talking out of a well, but we'll just have to deal with it. Can we all agree that city property, whether it's unsolicited for sale or a RFP proposal for a sale, all is city property and everybody ought to have an opportunity to buy it? Is that something a statement that we can agree on? No matter how it's being bought, there should be a process for both. An RFP gives that opportunity by putting it out there, an advertisement, date certain, here's what it's got to be, and everybody gets a chance to buy it. Unsolicited is different in that I choose to go write an offer on a piece of property that the city owns, it's still city-owned property. The city should still offer to the citizens an opportunity to buy it without having any knowledge of the terms of the original offer. And that's the premise that I'm coming from. Okay. So when Sean writes an RFP, he's very specific about what it's got to be. And one of the things I'd like to talk about today is what we put in the RFP on the front end of it. We'll follow it through here of what we're not going to allow from the allowable uses. But, and I'm going to give you my own personal experience. We all know it very well. So a few years ago, I wrote an unsolicited offer on a little lot on Tyndall Drive. And it went through this process. I walked in, and the city manager at the time, General, and Nevin's office, and I had this offer. And the first thing they said to me was, don't show us that offer. Because they didn't want anybody in the government to know what the offer was, for the very reason that the citizens still had an opportunity. I said, okay. And then the general went and pinged the commissioners to see if they would have any entertain at all looking at selling the lot. That was a yes. And so we brought it forward. Nobody knows the number, and announced in the city commission meeting that an offer had come in on this lot, and that for the next 2 weeks, anybody had an opportunity to make an offer. Now, here's where this is a big one. I'm going to jump into, if you look on page 2, it says this is where I keep suggesting the commission to decide. We do not want from the allowable uses. So, Mayor, this is a good example is when we were doing the deal with Jason Oaks. If we would have said up front, Jason, these are the things that we're not going to allow, and these are the things that we would look for. Jason's offer may have been different, probably would have. But in the grand scheme of things, when we put restrictions on a property, when anybody does, for that matter, it changes the value because it changes the use that somebody might want to do, even though it's allowed in the allowable uses. If we restrict it, that buyer either may go away or they may change their offer. So that paragraph is what I've been kind of talking about. So it gets back, and 2 weeks go by, and let's say 3 people make an offer. We will open those up, and I think Sean does a public opening when he does RFPs, and I'll ask him about that in a minute. And we'll open them up, and we will be able to pick either one to accept, one to negotiate with, or deny all of them. We're not required to sell it. All we are is looking at it. But let's just say that it's worth going after. And in my experience, we came back from the second commission meeting. They put the price, the cost, the net to the city, and everybody voted on it. It was a 5-0 vote. Everybody had the same opportunity to buy it, just like they do in an RFP. So are we all on the same page? Because that's really a big deal to me, okay? Because everybody needs an opportunity, but nobody needs to know what it is, because then we are not giving the person who made the offer the same. We're not protecting them like we're protecting everybody else. The allowable uses have really come into play a lot, and I think one question that I have for you guys is: Do you agree with our allowable uses in each of our zones? And if not, maybe we need to work on that. But if you do agree with them, do you like the idea of saying up front, these are the things we don't want to do, and there may be zero, but these are the things we don't want to do, and then give it back, put it out to the public, and the person making the offer gets an opportunity under the same guidelines. How do y'all feel about that? Because that's a big deal. Okay, that's first. And then so we get the deal going, we get it together, and what I've done is I've highlighted how long somebody can do due diligence for, they know what they're buying. Okay. And they don't need to go spend 60 or 80, 90 days. And so they have to close in 30. There's no reason for them to make an offer and then do 6 months worth of waiting. And I would like to, and we can think about if we want to be restrictive and start, and you got to start in a certain amount of time. And if not, we could put a reverter clause in there or have something else in there. But what my experience is that anybody that makes an unsolicited offer, they're probably a pretty qualified. They're probably somebody that wants to move forward and do a project. They didn't just pick something to go do that day. So I don't think we'll run into them not doing much. But at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to give everybody an opportunity to have the same chance, know that what the rules are, what they can build, and what they have to do, who they're going to negotiate with. They're going to, Jonathan, he'll help, and then negotiate with the commission, and how many days they have that they can do due diligence, how many days they have to close. We're telling them everything up front so they can make it. That's transparency. That's what our expectations are, and that's how we get paid. Okay, I don't get paid till the end of a deal, so I'm used to at the end. So this all works in my mind. It works real smooth and seamlessly. I'm going to stop there and see what I know. You've read over it and see what you think. Am I out of line thinking this seems crazy, or is this something you think we can? It'll streamline and make everything easier for everybody. Okay, and it's all on the website. Okay, we give them that opportunity.
All right, I'll recognize folks. I just for the benefit of the public, I know the five of you and the senior staff know this, but as a reminder, any CRA-owned property has additional notification and requirements for disposition per state statute. So if any CRA-owned property is going to have to be handled just a little bit differently than other property. But Mayor Branch, your hand was up first, and then Commissioner Granger.
Robbie, thank you. This was a lot of research, and I appreciate the process. And I think we are going to agree on a lot of stuff. Yes, I would hate to see, I believe Jason had the concern that someone was going to come in and outbid him by $1, and he had done all this work to identify the property and kind of swooping in and getting a deal. So I would agree. It looks like most cities, including Gainesville, have a process for this. I'd love to see us look at other cities as well if we haven't already. And there's sort of two pathways, which are P3s or just straight sell, lease them. For me, I don't look at this organization and our properties and selling them or leasing them as a way for us to generate lots of money from that sale. For me, it's all about getting momentum of a neighborhood going and getting potentially even, like you and I both know with real estate, that someone setting a new standard in a neighborhood with either building materials or a product that doesn't exist in the neighborhood creates the comps that other people need and the confidence they need to move forward. So for me particularly, I'm always more concerned with us shaping what we want there. And aligning that with the Dover Cole plans that we have with the neighborhood plans, than I am like squeaking out every dollar of a sale. But I do agree with the structure that you have here and the time where people can put in their offer as well, and a blind bid kind of a situation. I do like that too. So that was all my points.
Right. Commissioner Granger, you're next, sir.
Right. So I was got, I guess, two questions here. One is you're basically talking about a blind bid process by which if somebody comes to us and wants to buy a piece of property, and I think what we're talking about here is we're talking about mostly city property because CRA has a different process by statute, that it just kicks off a blind bid type situation. Is that what you're proposing? I mean, just in essence.
Yes, sir. But based on your comment, how is it different in the city versus the CRA in terms of offering on just to start the process?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
That would be the same, right?
I get it, but
okay,
you outline timelines, and you know, I
I
think
got you.
I think for the city, you know, we can set those timelines because I believe, Nevin, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't, the state changed that rule. We don't have to have any timelines in the city. Not saying we shouldn't. I'm just saying the state no longer requires it. Whereas the CRA, the state still requires us to go out for 30 days. The other thing that I would like to say about this is that I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I'm also saying is that I wouldn't like to use this very often. And the reason why is because when I look at other cities that have been successful with P3s, they don't sell their land. They keep it, they hold on to it, and they use it to bring things to the developers and citizens in those areas want to see go in. I mean, it's how Greenville, South Carolina was able to get a bunch of parking garages without and have free parking. They basically made the developers pay for it, and they did that by offering the land up to be built on. So I think, and I wish that we were in a better position to actually be buying land rather than selling it. But this is where we're at. I would much rather leverage that land to provide the citizens with things that they want through developers on that land. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that properly, but yeah, don't have any issues with the process. So,
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Granger. Commissioner Street, you're up.
Okay, so yeah, I can be on board with the blind bid process. You know, I mean, eventually, as long as there's an understanding that once it becomes public, that's going to bring public feedback with that could affect whether or not something is sold or something is kept, you know, at that point. And so I think regardless of whether it's a blind bid process, it can affect outcomes, you know, regardless. I do want to add, like, this is how I break up city-owned assets. In my mind, we have a residential property bank that we have, so that it's residential properties that we have. What I would like to see with residential properties, and I will send this to you, is a maximize subdivision of each residential lot. The reason for that is it helps affordability by reducing the land acquisition costs, and it also gives us more in our inventory. So if we have a lot that's 10,000 square feet, as long as planning and zoning can see it qualify for going to 2 5,000 square foot lots, that should be done prior to the disposition of that property. The second thing that I'll say, we should prioritize residential lots that are in our neighborhood plans. So, you know, we have a large inventory. So we should see a clear defined timeline on disposing of properties that are inside the neighborhood plans where we have focused on redevelopment. The third is that it should be required that whoever acquires that piece of property be able to build within 1 year. Residential construction is much more streamlined than commercial. And so I'd be willing to give a longer timeline for commercial, but a shorter for residential, I think is important. And it also communicates the urgency that we have in creating affordability. As far as price goes with residential lots, this is what I could support. No acquisition costs to the developer on anyone that will provide low income housing. So that means either a rental or for sale, but someone that will commit to building within a low income qualified pricing bracket, that we should not charge them anything for the lot. We should give it to them as the encouragement for them to build that specific inventory. 50% of our acquisition costs for anything that is, if a developer agrees or builder agrees to build within a moderate income for rental or sale, they get it at 50% our acquisition cost. 100% acquisition cost should be paid for anything that is of regular income. And there will be people that buy to build for regular income people. And that's part of having a mix and variety inside of each one of these neighborhood districts. But they should pay 100% of what our acquisition costs are. I do not think we should be looking to make money off of residential land when our citizens are sitting in a spot where there is not enough inventory to drive down pricing to the point of affordability. And so creating a mix of all of those will help create more affordable housing. So that's how I look at residential. Second category I would say is mixed use. With every offer on mixed use, I want to see, regardless of whether this is public or whether this is in private, I want to see their zoning, their overlay category, and I want to see their neighborhood plan district. And whatever proposal comes, they should already have taken all of those things into account. I think that they should be required in mixed use category properties that the city owns to have a residential and a commercial component. If it's zone mixed use, it's because both will work. And I think that if we want to dispose of these properties in a way that benefits moving these neighborhood plans forward, that we should require both a residential and a commercial component to it. And then I think there should be a requirement to develop within 2 years with a defined use. And so while they can privately, now that we are answering the question, that they do not have to disclose what they are bid because it is a blind bid, they should feel 100% comfortable telling us what they're going to build. I don't see that being an issue because it will be private to the point that we are at the decision. And so they should be able to define if they want to build a laundromat, whatever else it is that they want to build, they should be able to define it. If they want to propose multiple ones because they're not sure of it, they should be willing to propose a few different ones, and we should be willing to accept those uses. Commercial, I'd say the same thing with the exception of two things. One, I think we should combine parcels that are in commercial because commercial does require more land. And I think we should prioritize non-formula based businesses. What a non-formula based business is that I don't feel comfortable, me personally, offloading like let's say this MLK and 15th property that we're purchasing there. It's a great prime location for a Dunkin' Donuts. So, but do I want the city involved in acquiring property and disposing of property to create more Dunkin' Donuts? Or would I rather see a private entrepreneur that's in our community, something that's more local, something that has roots? There are ways to get around the non-formula based business regulations. They could do something unique there if they want to be a Dunkin' Donuts. It could be the one-of-a-kind Dunkin' Donuts that want to be there for all I care. But non-formula businesses are detrimental to what we're trying to create inside of these overlay districts. And so this is a good way for us to protect ourselves from those. And then the last one is I would like to see on commercial land, whoever it is proposing what a lease would look like, as well as what a purchase option would look like. Leases won't always work. They're very difficult to pencil from a development standpoint, but I would at least like to see the developer take the opportunity to kind of look at that before the acquisition actually takes place, because that can help the city long-term with, doing what Brian just described, purchasing more property, doing those kind of things with it. So those are kind of my notes. I do think that there should still be a defined use before we offload the piece of property so that we're not caught by surprise with something that we didn't anticipate. But I do agree with the blind bid process, and that provides that level of protection that someone can propose what they want to propose without the fear of somebody competing against it. But I will send that to all of you guys as far as what my details are from that. So,
Commissioner Lucas?
Well, good evening. Robbie, thank you for bringing this to us, putting all the thought into it. I agree with some of the feedback that has been given so far. I came into this discussion with a particular concern for the low to moderate income neighborhoods and what we do there. Since being elected and thinking about developing neighborhoods, looking at what you can do when you have acres of vacant land versus the situation where you have infill lots in already established neighborhoods. And that's challenging. I ride around the neighborhoods in my ward that have many of the properties and I go, okay, I like this house. I don't like that house. here's a vacant lot that the city owns. What do we tell them, to do here or not to do? Or do we continue to let it just, be whatever the owner decides for it to be? With our plans that we have in place, I think that's a starting point for us to be proactive in saying what we'd like to see developed, as opposed to reactive to each of the individual unsolicited offers that come. And Granger, I like, what you were saying about leveraging land to provide citizens with what they want, and being able to do that. All these properties were bought by another administration, and I'm not for sure what the plan was when they acquired all these properties, but we have inherited the challenge of now what to do with the properties. Spent Friday with 50 folks who are wrapping their minds and hearts and heads around developing and what they'd like to see and so forth. I'd like to see us prioritize their applications, because we've invested in them spending time to learn how to develop and so forth. So I would add to this some sort of scoring grid that can take into consideration the things that have been said that we'd like to see. I've even wondered about an RFP process where we stipulate things that we'd like to see, maybe on the main corridors that are in the gateway, that kind of lay out everything that the potential owners, developers have to be cognizant of. We've got some offers that are before us now, and we're trying to figure out how to help people do what they think they'd like to do. And it's frustrating for them to learn all the guidelines, restrictions, and so forth. So if we can take some of that frustration out up front to kind of say, hey, if you want to build in this mixed use area that's already zoned and that's in the plan for, XYZ, here are the things that your development ought to include. Commissioner Street, you've got some very specific directives that I think address some of the concerns I have about the equity, the fairness, because when you've got these little, and it's already happening. If we just look at what's going on in Glenwood, there are a lot of people building, including our own housing department, and it's slowly changing some streets, and so we'd like to be a little more proactive and directive rather than reactive. And I think some of the things that have been said allow us to do that.
All right, Commissioner Hughes, your hand is up.
I'm using that Apple thing that Brian's talking about. All right, so thank you for all of that feedback. I think y'all are like, I'm here and y'all are like way up here in terms of what we're thinking here. Unsolicited means just that, unsolicited. We don't know who's coming, who's going. We don't know what they're after, what they want. And so if you look at page 3 of my little write-up, it says the City Commission will evaluate all offers according to the following criteria: purchase price and contract terms, intended use and alignment with City Land Development Code, community impact, feasibility and financial capacity of the offer. So I think we're talking about the same thing, but I would caution us, when you limit what you can do with things, you're changing the value of that property. You're changing how somebody's going to enter that property. So if Josh and I are going to make an offer on the same piece of property, but he has a different idea than I do, the City Commission is, and that's not reactive, it's proactive to tell this person what we don't want to have on that site in that area. That's a very proactive thing. And that's done in the very beginning. To set out all these requirements, this is a goal. Since I've been there, I think we've received 10 unsolicited offers, one with 80 lots as a chosen they were trying to get for free. So all this is a process of how to run that. And so I asked Sean the other day, and here's the other thing, and this is the other reason I want to do this. We order appraisals like people eat candy. Okay, we can save some money in and that's not Sean's fault. That's just how it happens. So and Sean told me the other day, if somebody from another department says, "What about this property?" he may order an appraisal. If you notice in my process, the city's not ordering an appraisal until we're under contract. And Josh and Brian, this is similar to when we were doing the thing at Destination Panama City, and we said, are we getting the cart before the horse by spending, doing something before we have a contract? In this deal, there'll be one, and it'll tell the deal, unless there's a statute that says we have to order the appraisal up front, and that might be the case. Is that right? Am I right or wrong, Devin? Do we have to order the appraisal to even move forward, or can we negotiate and then order the appraisal?
No, you can negotiate and then order the appraisal, but typically, once you have a contract, you're locked in on the price.
No, sir, you're not. It'll be subject to the appraisal. We do them every day.
Oh, well, you could. I haven't had people agree to that, but yes, you could have a contract and then it says, but it's subject to an appraisal, and we could do it that way. Yes, we could do it.
Okay. And also, commissioners, my intent is to use the Florida Bar contract residential as is, the vacant land contract of Florida Bar, and the commercial contract Florida Bar. All three of those are documents that we use, that Devin uses, and they're all written and approved by the Florida Bar Association. If everybody's using the same document and everybody's having to follow the same process, Sean's life's about to get a whole lot easier, and so is ours. Okay, but if I heard y'all right, you're talking about going into different areas and saying, over here we only want this, and over here we want this, as opposed to somebody bringing us an idea. So I think where y'all are is we've expanded it up. I'm just trying to get a process that works for everybody and keeps it fair and transparent for everybody, and makes it be private to a certain degree, because if in an RFP, if we can't give away the numbers, and in a unsolicited offer, it ought to be the same. The city property is the city property. That doesn't change depending on how the offer comes in. And so, I lived through the process. I watched it happen, and it's fair. Okay. As far as giving it away or not giving it away, Sean told me the other day that somebody wrote a dollar. Well, that's giving it away. And we don't have any values. We're just going to talk about what we want to do. We may say we don't want to do that deal. I'm just trying to make it because they're coming. We're going to put it out there and they're coming. Now, Josh, you were talking about if we packaged it up. Let's say we went and Janice said, all right, guys, these 4 lots over here in her neighborhood, she says, are good. So we package those up and maybe do an RFP for those. Okay. Or put it out. And there's another way to send it out. But when they send it in, it follows the same process. What the use is, what the cost is, that matters, but how it operates every time. I live in a process world. That's how I operate my business. Does it help? Do you think this would help you guys? And that's what I'm after. And it's really more for city staff than it is for me and for commissioners in the future to know that this is the process that works. And we might have to tweak it. I see that putting things out there as ideas are ideas, but if you put them out there as a restriction, you might not get any bids. We don't know they're looking at it anyway. That's the thing, is we make it easy for them to send us something. That's all I'm after.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple of hands raised. You kind of directed a question at staff as well, Commissioner. So I just would say, from my perspective, I would always support maximizing flexibility for the elected body, obviously, without ever breaking federal or state law. That, to me, that's as since it's our property. So
Exactly. And the only thing, the question I have right now is, do we have to order the appraisal? Outside of that, we're not violating any federal law. I know we're not violating state law.
All right, Mayor Branch, your hand was up first, sir.
Yeah, I'll agree that I don't think we should be rushing to pay for appraisals. That an agent can do that. They're just pulling some comps. And but I think some of the where my opinion probably isn't the same as Robbie's is I don't believe my opinion is fast and highest dollar is not the way I look at our properties. Like, we're not a real estate company. We're in the business of momentum and aligning of plans. And so I would actually disagree in kind of a way with the idea that when we give out a P3 or list the restrictions that we want, that we make a property less valuable. Kind of, but not really. If you think about that, there's a lot of people who make money by just getting the entitlements on a property of going, hey, the city will allow this and they'll do. And so if that's kind of, and with little info lots, it's not really we're talking about mixed use properties and really, but if you kind of define, hey, here's what we want to have in this property and we're willing to pull back on stormwater or parking, and you could build closer to the lines to get this thing that aligns with the plans, we're actually doing a lot of their work for them. And they should be, a lot of people who they would be concerned about going through that process on their own, and they're seeing us already aligned with the path forward to do the thing. There should be even more encouraged to do it versus buying it, tying it up, going through the entitlement process. We're kind of already indicating what we want. So I kind of agree with it, but then I also see the perspective of entitlements have value too. And we're kind of giving them a pathway forward with entitlements as well. My biggest thing is I would hate for us to see us, we could go sell off all these properties, and if we rushed, we could get $500,000, $1 million. I don't know what all the properties are really worth. And we've really lost the ability to push a neighborhood forward or commercial corridor forward. That's my biggest worry. And Granger hit the nail on the head. When you go to Greenville, it is all P3s. And a lot of these revalidation stories start with the city really being aggressive with what they want and their vision, and aggressively helping a spark, and that spark could be locals or out of town people, whatever it is, to get things moving forward and building that confidence in an area. So I just would hate to see us move forward with fast and highest dollar being what drives us. I'm not saying that's you. That's just what my opinion is. It's not fast and highest dollar. It's spark related and pushing forward related. So. And
Mayor, this isn't about price. This is about process. And
I agree with
all I'm trying to do is find that. Now, the 30 days and all that, the fast part, we don't need somebody coming in and tying up our property to go get all the entitlements. And entitlements actually make it more valuable. It doesn't decrease. But when you put restrictions on there, that's different. Restrictions take it down, entitlements take it up. So what I'm talking about is, what we don't want somebody to go build a tattoo parlor right here, that we're going to say you can't do that. That's all I'm talking about. Okay. And it's not about time and money. Hey, a full price offer with a 6-month closing and you got to sell a house is not that great of a deal. Okay. But you can come up $10,000 and close in 30 or $50,000 and close in 30 days. That might be a better deal. So price and terms all go together. It's not about speed. It's about all the other things that work with it too. So I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that point. The difference is the finish line on a property for me is not disposing of it and selling it. It's looking back in 3 years and going, gosh, that made a difference in that neighborhood versus, if you and I were just selling property on our own, it's sort of like, hey, we wash our hands of the situation, that property is sold and move on. But we have a vested interest in every neighborhood, that we move every neighborhood forward. And that's really, that's
all right.
All right. Commissioner Street, you have your hand up, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, I can fully agree with the standardized format. I think the appraisal process, absolutely. I mean, I've been around appraisals enough to know they're worth about as much as the day that they were given. So that's about as much as you ever get from an appraisal. The appraisal is what really drives the value of a property, is what the end use is. I mean, that is that drives it. I mean, you can have entitlements for 1,000 different units on one thing, but if you only build 10, the property's only worth the 10. So I agree. I don't think we should be wasting a bunch of money on appraisals. I mean, I'll just be blunt. I've always felt like they were just part of the political process more than the actual process of making something work financially. I mean, I go to the point of, if I've got a choice, all of these properties that are owned by the city are now public properties. They're owned by every citizen that lives in Panama City. I don't own them. None of us in this room own them. They are a collective ownership of the people that reside in Panama City. And so as a result, the end use will always define what I'm willing to sell it for. If somebody wants to build a gas station on one of a public owned property, yeah, I might do it, but I'm going to charge you $10 million an acre. So I'm willing to be free market, but at the same time, we have a choice of picking our neighbors. And I do think we have a responsibility of helping develop, as Alan was saying, develop the end result that we want to see for these neighborhoods. And I think we can have a part of that. To me, appraisal is nothing more than a professional opinion of today's value. Acquisition cost is what we paid for it. That matters. It matters for even the funding that was used. If it was used with a certain pocket of funding, whether it be CRA, whether it be something, there may need to be a pocket of money that's reimbursed by that property to actually go do the end use we need to do. And so acquisition cost does matter. And then, but I'm willing to sell property for less than what our acquisition cost is if it's something that moves a community forward. If somebody came to us and said, I want to build a grocery store in Glenwood, I want to do a daycare and St. Andrews, those uses are in such high demand and our citizens want them, I would give somebody property to do that. I mean, that's where I stand with as far as property disposition. Hopefully that kind of helps. But I can fully agree with standardized contracts, the blind negotiation period, all of those things. But what it almost as diametrically different as in like land use will not be the only thing for me that will dictate what the willingness is to sell something or the price. And that may reduce the price that it can sell for. I'm okay with that. So I'm okay with I would give somebody a residential lot if they would build within that, $150,000 to $185,000 range. So someone could afford to purchase a home. I would do that in a heartbeat. Don't care what we paid for it at that point. And the same thing goes with certain commercial incentives to get the uses that our people are ultimately communicating they want.
So if I may, Josh,
go ahead, sir.
What y'all are, everything that you're saying, I agree with, and it's all built into this process in the negotiations. So let's say that somebody wants to come in and build something in a neighborhood or in a commercial or home, whatever. We don't have to say yes. We can say we'd rather do it this way. To use the mayor's word, massage or shape. I'm not a fan of that word, but okay. And so we can say yes or no. Okay, but this isn't about money. The example I just gave, price and terms. Everybody thinks the price is the most expensive part, most important part of a contract. Negative. The terms are the most important part because that's what drives the train. That's how much money I'm going to get at the end, or that's how fast it's going to go. And so I'm not looking to move all this property out. I'm looking. We have people coming to us, and we get to say yes or no to even move forward. So to your point, Josh, let's say that we want this. They want to come at this spot at 123 ABC Street, and we say this spot right here needs one of these two things. And we go back and say, this is what we'd like to see there. And they say, well, we don't want to build that. Right, thank you. Go find something else. But thanks for playing. But we still get to do that on a proactive basis of saying, here's what because if we say today, these are things that are going to go on this section. And 10 years from now, that's what we said. That is inhibited development because say over the next 5 or 10 years, that kind of went away. So we have to change that. Leaving it open allows us to negotiate each time. what I'm trying to think of is one, saving money like we talked about on the appraisals, and two, giving the public, the staff, and whoever the commission is at the time an opportunity to all work on the same guidelines, and we can say, here's our deal. This isn't about money. This is also about what the end use is, and we want y'all to know that. So when you're thinking about it, we may quiz you about it. I don't know that we can have plans and specs when they make the offer, but at some point they'll have to have that. I'm just looking for a way, because if we can do it for an RFP, we can do it for unsolicited, and we own the dirt and we get to make the rules. So I'm just trying to make those be similar in how they operate. Really, because we're getting ready to be inundated, I believe, with unsolicited offers. Now, let me say this about your price range. In Millville, I was building houses in Millville, and I can't get below $245,000 or $50,000 as a sale price, with a lot cost of $22,000 on average. So to Josh's point, if we give somebody a lot to build a house, there's $22,000 right off the bat. Now we're down to $220,000, and it will be easier to get to that affordable price range. To me, that's the only way it can work. And now you have built into there a way to get somebody down on financing, and they can make that work. I've already talked to 2 different lenders. They've got programs for this that will work wonderfully. We can have somebody financed in 30 days if they were going to build a house. We can have them qualified up front and be under contract with that builder on the front side. There's different ways to do this, and that's all another day's conversation. But that's the way you get it affordable. Believe me, I've tried everything possible to get it to $200,000, and the only way I know how to do it is to do the dirt for free.
So, Robert, if I could piggyback off what you're saying, you're thinking exactly the same way that I have been in regards to creating affordability. So yes, the acquisition cost of land, we can take that off the table. That's 20-something thousand. But now think about the impact fees. Now there's a process that we can use, SHIP funding, to offset those impact fees. Now we're reducing the cost even more. Now couple that with maybe some down payment assistance and those things, and now all of a sudden we're starting to get in a price range that you really couldn't create any other way other than doing it right in these infill lots. And so that's the piece where what I've watched over the years is where we're struggling is to meet those price points. But I also think it's because we're trying to, I think we're expecting the private market to do what the private market can't do. So like what you just said, there's no way to create that. So we can sit here all day long and we can pound our chest and say, oh, we got to be more affordable. But until we incentivize it, it's never going to happen. I think the same thing with residential, same thing with commercial. There are certain things that will not happen in our city if we're not willing to incentivize them to happen. And so, so anyway, so I'm glad to hear that it sounds like we're pretty aligned in how to kind of, at least on the residential side, get some.
I'm saying with commercial, Josh. Yeah. Why not? I mean, all of it. Let's make it be incentivized. I think Jared told me we have a couple of properties that are like 20 acres or 25. Hey, and I don't know where they are and what condition they're in. Somebody come in and say, I want to do an affordable housing development. Well, my God, man. I mean, think of what you can do with that if you're on acquisition costs there. I mean, most of your problem today is acquisition costs. Because after the storm, the same house I bought for $42,000, the reason I started building houses and stopped living them, the last one was $89,000, same house. So acquisition, it doubled. And so you can't do that and then go and build with a higher cost of building today. So that's a very good idea on how to use the housing.
And the great thing about it, Robbie, and this goes to like what Janice said, all of these properties were built or were purchased when land value was at its lowest in our community. So our acquisition cost as a city is lower than anyone else. Nobody else can come and acquire for what we acquired these properties for. So in some aspects, we're the only one that can do it. And so, and that's why I'm passionate about it. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Commissioner Lucas, you have your hand up, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah, wow. A lot's been said, and this is really good stuff. Again, I go back to folk who were in the room on Friday. They left there with ideas, and they want the boot camp so that they can get in the game. The way we release this information is going to be critical and key in terms of letting it go. Because now I'm thinking, as you just said, Robbie, there are a lot of people who are going to, make these offers. And to the extent that we can streamline the process so that staff does not necessarily have to bring every individual.
Oh, no. Okay, we lost her.
What happened to her?
She dropped. So, oh, she's back. Commissioner Lucas, we lost you, ma'am. Are you back fully?
I'm back.
Okay, go ahead.
Maybe not. Okay.
No, we hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay. So I can.
Oh, you're muted.
Am I?
Yeah, you're good, ma'am.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
We can, yes.
So streamline the process by putting out the notice that these are the properties that are available, and these are mixed use, these are residential, these are commercial, because that's, we've talked about these properties, and now people are like, well, where can we find this list? How can I know I want to build a house, but I don't know what's available. And there are some properties that it's going to take quite a bit of investment even to get the lot ready to build on. And so the likelihood that somebody is going to put that kind of investment in just to get ready to build is nil. So it is in our best interest to give that lot away as a part of levying those or lowering those costs, and any way that we can to incentivize the building, because the need for affordable housing is great. The market cannot meet the niche market, if you will, of folk who work every day, many of whom are employed by the city of Panama City, but cannot afford the average rent or the average price home. And so our being able to incentivize that residential and affordability as properties is certainly one that I'm in favor of. But I'm also aware that we're going to create quite a workload for our staff if we just kind of let them trickle in, as opposed to putting together the policy, the process, and this is what you go to and you check it off. And if you meet this, then you're ready, versus us getting the unsolicited offer all the way up to the commission and then working it backwards to learn that they're not going to be able to meet the criteria, particularly in the low to moderate income and CRA held areas, properties.
One question that staff had, just to kind of get some of y'all's thoughts, is, what would we do and because this is a recent real example, when we receive an unsolicited offer that's not sealed, it's just in an email, that's just emailed into a few key staffers.
So on the web, what I want to do is I want to put on the website, city property disposition, unsolicited offers, however you want to title it. And on there, it's going to have how to make an offer. Here's the document for residential. Here's where it goes. Here's what you do. Not everybody reads the rules of the road. So I can't say that everybody's going to do that. But the lion's share of people, you go there and say, here it is. They can submit it online. No, it has to come to you. And then it is sealed. The reason for the sealing, guys, is if we can open RFPs on a regular basis, let's open this up. But if we can't treat the RFP that way, why should we treat the lot that way that's unsolicited? It's the same citizen, the same, it's dirt. And if that's not necessary, tell me why. I'll be okay with that. But everybody's got to be treated fairly in this process, and that's, to me, that's why the confidentiality up to a certain point is necessary.
Commissioner Street, your hand is up, sir.
Yeah, so I want this to come off like what I don't want to have happen is I like Robbie's idea of like some place that you can just submit it in those things. But what I don't want to have happen is I don't want staff negotiating a P3 without our knowledge. Does that make sense? So like,
Yes.
so I don't know what part of the process needs to happen so that we're at least clued in before stuff starts getting developed. And then all of a sudden we get surprised by something, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
So Josh, under the process that I have, Josh, staff won't be in negotiations at all. And the process is staff ask us if we want to be if we won't even talk about it. They won't negotiate until we say, let's move forward. That's the only time that would happen.
So that there would be some kind of action that comes to us before we even start going down that path. I think that's really important because I mean, the reality is you can put whatever cone of silence or whatever you want to do from that standpoint, but we're a small town and people talk, and City Hall people talk. And so like, so I don't want to find out about something. I don't want to find out about something on the street and then me say like, I don't know nothing about that. Then all of a sudden, oh, boom, something comes up. And then it's like, I look like I wasn't telling the truth when the reality is I didn't know. And so like, it's just, as long as there's a part that like we get informed on the front side, that would be very helpful to me.
So, and I don't think staff will do this.
With you, if I may,
Commissioner,
I agree with
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
you have a very bad connection. Your screen is kind of frozen and your voice is choppy. I don't know if you have a different Wi-Fi you can get on or if you're using cellular signal.
Okay. Just quickly, am I still choppy right now?
Your voice is fine. The video isn't, but your voice is fine. Go ahead, ma'am.
So I just want to say I invested that the process. I just took the video off. Okay, I'm dead again. Never mind. I'm alive. I'm dead. I'm alive.
We certainly hope you're still alive, ma'am.
That is now getting commission level and the offer is not ready.
Yeah, ma'am, you're still breaking up. Maybe if you drop out and come back in.
Okay.
We'll wait for you.
I think she said, I agree with Alan.
I seriously doubt
I
that.
heard that. I did. I thought I heard that.
No, nobody heard that. What you heard was staff is never wrong.
Right.
There we go. All right. Commissioner Lucas, let's try that again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. Audio is
Okay.
perfect. There we go.
My concern is that we don't get all the way through, get a unsolicited offer at the commission level, that when we start going through the paces, we find and the offerer finds that they're not ready. You know, they don't meet the criteria of what they're trying to do. If that can be vetted before it gets to a level of where we're saying, okay, let's open it up for everybody. You know, that was my concern, Josh. Not that we shouldn't know about P3s.
Okay, Janice. So, a house one's easy. I come in, I'm going to buy, make an offer on a lot, so I know I'm going to have a lot. So, if it's a commercial property or a mixed use, that's a little tougher to put the deal together, get the money. So when you say vetted, do you want that person to make an offer and get in there and then somebody vet them. It's hard. It's hard if we do that. You're having staff vet them versus us. We can ask all those questions. There can be one meeting
hold
to be
on.
over.
Rob, hold on, Robbie. What I'm
Okay.
saying is, if we've got criteria established because it's a CRA owned property in a low to moderate income neighborhood, and we want the plan there, then if they can check, yes, this is my development will meet all of
Gotcha.
these criteria, then it comes on up, right? I'm not talking about getting
100%.
into the nexus of the deal.
Oh, great idea. Great idea. So, okay. So like in Glenwood, that's in a CRA, right? So that lot's separate. That lot is different from, say, buying something on Jinx Avenue. And that's a city property. So you're saying it's a CRA property. Yes. In CRA, I have to do these things and I qualify for my project that I'm thinking of before I send it in. Is that what you're saying? I like that
And
idea.
it's using that example, MLK is in the gateway. So there are certain stipulations that have to be met. And, if somebody wants to build a MySpace building, do they even know that what they want to build will fit on the lot that they're asking for?
Great idea.
So those kind of things can, and then I like your idea, or whoever said about, maybe it was Josh, if we've got a lot that can be split into smaller lots and we change the zoning to increase affordability or, the numbers, maybe that thinking goes ahead of us saying that property is available.
Right.
Because the person may say, oh, this is a 100-foot lot and I want to do 100-foot worth of building. And but we may have identified that, hey, that's a great lot to split into 2 lots.
Okay. And if we did that, maybe not have to meet the minimum frontage of the code so that we can at least get, maybe put a smaller cottage there, but we're allowing something to happen based on affordability. I think it's a great idea. Yeah. Hey guys, y'all have had some great ideas. I like for it to be smooth and transactions need to be smooth. But more importantly, if people know what to expect, whether it be staff, public, or us, it just helps everybody work through it easier. So I do have a question for Sean, though. Sean,
Muted. Robbie, you're muted, Commissioner.
I'm out now.
right.
So Sean, what we're talking about on the RFP process, the taking in of the bids. Is it similar? How do you go through that RFP process and open it up? And now it's different, I get, but there's a process that you go through. What do you do?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing, that kind of what you're talking about. We just do it through an RFP process. We put the scope of what it is the city wants from that particular property. And that may go from no restrictions whatsoever to a specific set of restrictions based on the commission's direction. We put that out there, and then everyone is allowed to submit a bid within those parameters, a proposal, and it is sealed for the entire time. No one can see it at that point. And so normally it's 30 days. And so after 30 days, we do a public opening for that. They're announced, but it's announced after all of them have been submitted. So no one gets that information up front. Then at that point, it really comes into your hands to decide as to which one there may be a committee that recommends one to you guys versus another. But at that point, it comes to you guys for approval. So no one would see that through the entire process. The RFP can be built to say whatever language you want it to say. It can say whatever contract we want to say. It can say it's for XYZ uses, or it can limit it to certain uses. So you really can do all that already through the RFP process in a sealed situation online, where even we talk about staff and stuff, no one can see those bids, literally no one. If it got open early, which our process will not allow us to do it on purpose, there's a timestamp. We would know that. So there's nobody in the city that's going to have privy to that information until it's actually open. And then all of those proposals are given to you guys at that point to decide which one do you think is the best fit based on the parameters that were given to us. And every RFP can be different. One can have a different set of parameters from a different one. It's just to be as specific, kind of like you said earlier, you want to be as specific as possible because we don't want someone to submit a proposal and then after the proposal comes in, we say, well, we didn't really want you to do this. We really need to tell them that up front. If we do, they're going to follow those guidelines and submit the things that you guys are looking for. If we wait until it's submitted to us and then tell them, then of course that's not doing any favors to the proposers.
Right. So guys, what Sean said there is what I'm talking about here is kind of a hybrid. It's adding to the front some process because we're talking about unsolicited versus RFP. So we don't know what's coming, but there's a process to get it there. And then once it gets there, how it's open and processed through, that's what Sean's talking about right there. And then it comes to us. So at the end of the day, we're doing the same thing with the exception of the front side of it is the unsolicited part. It's rather than it just show up and go public and all that. Now we're going to keep it confidential. So I think we're all talking the same language and we don't know what's going to come up. So putting a restriction on lots and we don't know that they're going to show up unless we're going to do an RFP, I think kind of hinders us of what we're trying to do on RFPs. I mean, on unsolicited. They're coming. We can say, don't bring them. I guess we can tell the public not to send them to us, but they're coming. And I think too, it controls some costs, but more importantly, it allows us to, hey, here's the section of town you can make them on. Here's the set, and these are the rules if we wanted to do that. But for up front right now, let's keep it simple and say try to follow what Sean's doing and just add the front half to it. How the offer gets here,
Yeah. All right, Mayor Branch, your hand is up, sir.
Yeah, and one final thought for me. I think originally when I proposed one of my early documents about some of the CRA lots, and I know we have more than just CRA lots, I broke them into infill lots versus commercial lots, and I think commercial lots are the more difficult ones versus single family infill lots. And I'd go back to that. My worry is we get on the dais and we're debating each other over 22,000 versus 24,000 and a house with a front porch and a house with no front porch. And I don't want to get into that. So to me, infill lots are much easier to deal with than I would prefer P3s on commercial corridors and properties that have bigger abilities. That's a much fuzzier deal. We can align everyone's view on that versus us getting in the dais and battling over configurations of buildings and things like that and a couple $1,000. So that was it. You're muted too, by the way.
A question. What about including in this process how to submit a unsolicited proposal that someone has to go through that, listen to a video, check off a whatever, so that we can, I'm thinking about those 50 folks who are, trying to get their act together now. How do we level the playing field?
It's a 2-hour
really
video
good
of
idea.
Jonathan talking.
really good idea.
It's a 2-hour video of Jonathan talking, and if you can make it through the video, you get a free piece of property.
If we do that, though, you have to promise, Mr. Mayor, you only watch it once a week.
Yeah.
Mr. Street, you have your hand up,
I do
sir?
agree that we need some sort of explanation. I think Robbie touched on that too as well, James.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so you guys are kind of seeing why I focus so much on the residential side. It is way easier than the commercial side. And so, but it's also the highest level of inventory that we have. And so, and it happens to be one of the biggest needs that we have in the community. So I think that process can be very simplified, very formulated, very defined, and probably in a way that there may be 100 different builders that take advantage of that, or small developers that take it up. The commercial aspect is more complex than what Alan is saying, because commercial development is just more complex. You've got engineering, you've got civil, on some of these commercial lots that we have, there's going to have to be environmental done, those kind of things. In an ideal world, if we were really trying to, maximize the capacity and create a spark in the community with any of these products, we would be looking at each one of these lots and saying, as we say in the development side, clean the hair off of it. And so that may mean like we trucked in fill for something to make it more build ready. We go ahead and do the environmental analysis. We go and do certain things that make it more friendly to encourage the next stage. And it's really important in commercial more than anything else. And we're seeing that happen on the MLK and 15th one. You got to go through an environmental analysis. You got to go through these things. You got to look through your stormwater. You got to go through all these things. So anything we can do to simplify that process on commercial, but also define the outcome that we want to, I think is super important. But these residential sides, like we can be very streamlined, formulated, and probably, have very little discussion on the end result, because I don't want to debate porches and all those other things. That's not what I'm interested in either.
Yeah, and honestly, that's not, the debate is not, is the house going to have 2 stories or 1 story? The debate is on a commercial site, what's going to go there. And I think with all, a commercial buyer is, in most of the time, is going to be more, they're going to know more of what they're doing. They're going to know what has to happen versus, your run of the mill residential buyer. Remember, a person buys a house maybe 5 times in their lifetime. Okay. But a commercial guy may go and develop 10 pieces of property in over, 5 years. So he's more in tune with it, or she for that matter. And so I agree 100%. We can make the residential is really where I'm focused on, because that's where they keep coming from. I got guys out there like, tell me where I can go and go look. I said, I don't know. We got to figure our stuff out first. But the residential can be very easy, and we can put it together. We can even go get finance packages to put out there for people to show them what it costs to do a 3-2. But at the end of the day, my goal is to make it easier for the public to know how to do this, and they can get online and do that. Make it easier for the staff to run it through, and make it easier for us to know how to walk through the process as they come through. And none of that involves one specific thing: money, time, use. It's all together, but it all works in conjunction from one to whatever, page 1 to page 3. So that's really my goal there. And I think y'all have loaded it in some very good ideas that help it be more complete. And so that buyer, they'll show up to us with that offer. That's a better buyer than would if we didn't have this, in my opinion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, your hand's back up, or did you leave it up from earlier, sir?
Oh, that was an old hand.
Okay. Commissioner Lucas, your hand is back up, ma'am.
Let's just fast forward to, we got the unsolicited offer that's met the criteria. We do the public notice. We get more responses. We've got 4, and we come to the table. What happens then? Is there a score sheet we use? How do we determine who gets it, and is that done at the commission level? I'm talking about the residential properties we're talking about now, more
yes,
so
ma'am.
than the P3.
Well, and I think in my write-up, Janice, purchase price, intended use, community impact, and feasibility. And you're right, that really doesn't matter in a residential. It's a house, it's a duplex. So I think I think it's going to be based on, the most, who can close, who can do the deal. That's one thing we're going to look at. And they may want speed. They may want to close fast. I don't know. But I don't know that a score sheet there, and that may be, honestly, guys, that may be where price comes in. But they're not going to make an offer, I don't believe, without being able to afford to build what we want to build, knowing that they get these things. So if somebody can't afford to buy it, let's say that, we need to know that. Okay, that's in the due diligence period. But if there's 4 of them and 3 are the same, and one is $5,000 more, well, there's your answer. That's about $5,000 because it's a house. If it's a commercial site, that's completely different. So I hear you. I think that's going to be about price and terms, to be honest with you, because a house is a house is a house, as long as it's affordable. They have to meet our requirements, 150 to 200, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, whatever it is, they have to meet that. And if they can't or won't, then they're out. But that's a good point. We need to figure that out. So right now.
But the other concern of those factors that both Josh and Mayor Branch have expressed, and I agree with, that we want to make sure that the housing developments meet some criteria as well, that it's not just a quick deal, but it's an enhancement of a neighborhood. And so in that regard, it's more than who has the money to do the deal, because now we're talking about neighborhood development.
Right.
And that will, weigh in on what it is that we're about to do. The other thing in terms of equity, particularly in the LMI neighborhoods, we don't want to set it up so somebody can come in and, just go ahead and buy up 10, 15, put in proposal after proposal after proposal, and keep giving them. I mean, how many can one person bought? My first 6 months in office, someone came to me and said, we'd like to do the grocery store and get all the infill lots in Glenwood. And I said, no, absolutely not. I mean, that defeats the purpose if we're just going to have a few who can take advantage of what is available here. I'd like to see neighborhood development prioritized, from the standpoint of people who are in that neighborhood or who have a connection to that neighborhood, versus developers just coming from all over town and out of town to take advantage of this deal.
I agree. The houses the guys building over in Glenwood, like at 10th Court and 9th Court, they're kind of shotgun, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're not shotgun, but they're, yeah.
Well, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is, if that fits, we identify something that's new. I think that guy's built 9 houses over there in the last year. And he's selling those for $225 to $250. Think about if we could sell that house for $175. That now you're putting people in infield homes that want to be homeowners. But we have to decide, what is that style? Because when you're residential, it's a style. It's a type of architecture. And if they're willing to do it, I think it's a great idea. Yes, ma'am. They need to know up front.
For those
is important. For
those properties you mentioned, you take their acquisition cost out of it, and it does drop it to below 200.
Yes, ma'am. That's my point. Yeah. Now we make it affordable. And we don't need one person to build everything. You're exactly right. We need to come up with a limit, whether it be for a year, for every 6 months, whatever, because it's not fair. There's a lot of people here that can go build affordable housing and everybody participate.
So I would ask, are there any questions from any of the elected officials of staff, whether it be regular city purchasing process, city property for Sean, our CRA staff, Lena and Michelle, or Sheila with housing?
Yes, I have a question. If you've heard anything here today that you are going to walk out of the room and go, oh, please share now what your thought is, what bumps we may be not seeing, if you will.
They know I always ask, what are the unintended consequences of what we're proposing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, thank you for that rephrasing.
We'll make Sheila go first, since she's been with the city longer than any of us.
On the lots that have been purchased from the housing department with housing funds, we have to keep in mind we do have to recoup some of those funds because that money has already been expended. So the end buyer is going to have to, the end user will have to qualify for the program. So we just have to keep that in mind. So if we are using the land as their, in lieu of their down payment, and that would be land acquisition assistance, which is something that's in our strategy now that we do use, that would be their down payment. So we wouldn't get paid back for the land, but that would be their down payment. So that is a way to spur that, but we have to make sure that they are income qualified on the end. So we just need to keep that in mind.
Sean?
So Sheila, I have a question.
Oh.
So if I go buy the lot, if I go get the lot from the city, and I'm builder, and I'm going to build the house, and you're the buyer. How? No, I get the lot. You gave me, let's say the lot was $2,500, and I had to buy that. I'm going to pass, and that's going to be my price to you as the buyer, right?
Correct.
That's how I'm looking at it. Okay,
Correct.
so where it's different for me, I've got 22. We got 2,500. Now that makes sense. So when you say down payment, the down payment, that builder or that whoever that's buying that, they're stroking me a check, and I'm getting the city a check, and we're getting that. So the person buying it, are you saying that lot then can be used in the down payment because it was given?
Well, two different things. If we have that the builder pays us back for the lot, let's say we have one piece of property, there's 300,000. If he buys that and pays the city back the 300,000, that goes back in the housing program. Those are his properties,
Okay.
whatever he wants to do with it. But if we're giving them the lot, then we have to secure that property with a lien. And that would be each applicant would have down payment land acquisition assistance from the program.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
down payment funds.
Right. So when that happens and it closes, that lien comes off because the lien is a first. It sits as a first while they're building, or it would sit as a second because the bank's not going to sit as a first.
Right.
I mean, it's the second. Okay. And then the buyer buys that, closes on, and the lien comes off because we're getting the $2,500 back.
Right.
So it's free.
Two ways.
So it's free.
If they need
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for
yeah.
if they need it for their down payment, then we
Yeah.
wouldn't get it back. But if they
Okay.
don't, then we get paid back. Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. That works. I see.
Commissioner Street, did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, so we went through this process with MLK and 15th. So I would say trying to find, so Sheila, you've got people in your program that are qualified buyers within a certain income bracket. So you've got people that are qualified to be a purchaser of the end house.
Yeah.
What we can also operate, so if like, let's say, hey, we want to increase affordability, but maybe we don't have the buyer that's ready to close. We could say, hey, we want you to build a house within this, but you may have to pay us back the acquisition cost if we can't find the qualified person. Am I understanding correctly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So like if the lot was bought at 5,000, if we go through the subdivide process, does that also reduce the acquisition cost, or does it create another $5,000? So let's say we bought a lot for 5,000, but we can subdivide it and make 2 or 3. Does that reduce the acquisition cost that we could then incentivize, or does it have to be $5,000 for each lot? That makes sense what I'm asking?
Don't you split it amongst the lots?
We split it amongst the lot because our goal is to get back at least what we have invested in it.
And most of these lots you guys have purchased at like dirt cheap from what I've seen.
Some
Pretty
we have, some in the later part of after the hurricane, there were some that were purchased that were not.
Okay.
As-
Do
yeah.
you know how many qualified buyers we have today that are ready to close?
We've gone through most of them that are actually 100% ready out of the door because we can only service right now the 80% and below. We have no moderate income funds.
Okay.
So I would say probably about on our list now that would be ready to go, maybe 5 to 10.
Okay. So is there another way beyond the down payment assistance that we might be able to help the 80%? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, let's say we did find a way to reimburse the program, the acquisition cost, would there be a bigger benefit in reimbursing the program, the SHIP dollars or whatever funding is used for it to reduce the acquisition cost to maybe get some people in it? Does that make sense what I'm asking? I may not be asking it correctly.
Capping the price, of course, is one thing.
Yep.
Because like on the 175 deal that we're doing right now, let's use that as an example. Most of those lots are like 15,000 is what, so it's 160 that the builder has to work with.
Okay.
The other thing that we could do is, if the lot is not paid back, then that could serve as their down payment, because we're at a crunch now with having funding available. So that's why I said if we trade off, you don't receive down payment money, but you receive
Okay.
the land as your down payment.
So let me ask this. So like, let's say we take 10 lots and let's say we want to sell those, but because we are trying to create more funding in the 80% mark for down payment assistance, let's say we reimburse the program the full acquisition cost on those. Could you repurpose those funds from the 10 lots to go and help the program?
Yes, that's the goal for us to do that. That's why we want to get reimbursed for as much property as we can.
So maybe the first step is to subdivide, get as many lots in inventory as we maximize can, and then look at selling in blocks. And I'm not saying a block is in one person. It could be 10 people for all I care. I mean, it could, but we sell them with less restrictions at hopefully is what a below market price would be, but it's at our acquisition, get the money back in the program, and then hopefully develop another 10 for the 80% number. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
I see where you're going with it.
Commissioner Lucas, your hand is up, ma'am.
Yes, the properties in our housing department would not be up for unsolicited proposals, given the nature of the program, would they?
Well, I see that as like what when Pedro put in his offer, I mean, those were half owned by housing, but in that case, CRA purchased housing out so that we could develop them. So
that's always an option.
I would say if we got an unsolicited proposal for a housing property, that could be an option if it's in a CRA.
Because I can imagine people will just go to the property appraiser's site and look up City of Panama City owned properties and get a whole slew of lists. And that includes, parks and vacant lands and so many things that would not qualify because of their use now for an unsolicited offer. So I think goes back to making the how to make an unsolicited offer. It's just not about finding a piece of property the city owns and saying, yeah, I want to put something on that property.
All right.
If I could, like Janice,
go ahead.
So taking the MLK 15th is a good example of that. Like we couldn't make the project work without involving housing and creating some type of mechanism for us to reimburse the program. I don't think that anybody's proposing that we should entertain any option that wouldn't go back into the program inside of that. The other thing is, I do think there's probably some properties that don't need to be on there whatsoever. I think that is what's happening now is people are just going through looking at City of Panama City, and then they just go like, oh, well, we could do this, we could do that, we could do that. So there probably does need to be some parameters. But all of these properties, like there's a mix of funding. Some of these have been bought by multiple funding sources. So you kind of have to keep everybody at the table in order to work through some of the more complex ones. But, my thinking is if we have residential lots, regardless of whether it's using a SHIP funds, that we should try to encourage affordability regardless. And if there does come a point that we need to sell it at the full acquisition cost, that money should go back into creating more affordability for someone else, if that makes sense. Because if we don't do that, we'll kind of end up stuck with a large inventory, but not enough money to actually do creating affordability, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
All right. Put the CRA on the spot. Any concerns, unintended consequences?
The only thing we talked about was, especially with the commercial lots. And we're putting all these restrictions about wanting certain businesses in there, looking for that the use of that property and making sure that that meets the community's wants and desires and needs. But what's to stop them from 3 years after they've developed it, selling it and it becoming whatever business that new owner deems it?
Thank you. Anything to add? Good.
So like for the housing, I'm saying no investor, it has to be primary resident, and they can't sell it for a certain number of time, a certain number of years. That way you're not having an investor come in there and rape it and jack up all the prices. With commercial, you can put, like I'm selling an office building right now for the first 5 years. It can't be a dentist office because it was. So for 5 years, you can't do it. So to your point, you can put it on there, and after a number of years, it can change. Because at a certain point, the government has got to stop saying what you can't do with the property after that.
Last but not least, Sean.
I would just say over the last 6, 7 months, 8 months, maybe, as the commission has kind of pivoted from wanting to just outright sell properties to reaching out to do some more P3s or some taking of unsolicited offers or RFPs. I would just raise the flag to be aware that I've noticed a trend over that time to where companies or individuals who are submitting the RFPs now are starting out at $100, $1, $0. And I'm not saying they should be at 300,000 or 400,000 or 200, but I think there is some perception from the public that we're ready to give away some properties. And so the numbers you are getting submitted to you right now probably are not reflective of what could really be a successful business. Maybe they could have put 50,000 towards it, but we're getting not medium bids. We're getting very, very low bids in the hopes that the commission will approve that just to get that business in that location. And I'm talking really commercial. I'm not talking residential. I've just noticed that trend that we didn't have previously starting to happen now. And it may very well be worth doing that. But I would I would kind of evaluate that as you look at it and go through that some of the people that are submitting bids for these RFPs could be putting a little bit more skin in the game, but they're intentionally not doing that because they're hearing the perception that they possibly don't have to.
And Sean, and this is exactly one of the reasons that I want to do this. If they know that right now they can just send it in, but if they know it's going to be sent in, it's going to be looked at, the public's going to have an opportunity to bid on it. Now that buyer is either not going to make it, that offer, or I think they're going to be more serious. But at the same time, I can't tell a buyer what to offer, just like I can't tell a seller what to take. But if there's another offer out there and his is $1 and everybody else's is 10,000, because it's public, it's going to be someone be like, "Hey, Sean, you offered $1 on that piece of property. I mean, come on now." So I think you're exactly right. That's a problem now, but I think that it helps fix that problem, knowing that there's a process now that it has to go through, and the public will get an opportunity. Maybe I'm wrong, but right now they don't have that option on them.
Right. Commissioner Lucas, your hand is up, ma'am.
Yes. How many unsolicited offers do we have right now?
Currently, we have 15.
Wow.
And some of those go back a little bit, so they're not all immediately current right now. I can get your breakdown and send it to you of each one.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, there were some questions, and I've shared this all with y'all individually, but just collectively for the public, there were some questions asked maybe around a month ago, maybe 3 weeks, and so I asked Sean and Giovanna, who's the purchasing manager underneath Sean, to, for the time being, just be the point of all unsolicited offers kind of coming into the city, so that and I think that's an appropriate role until the commission adopts a more formal process to have the purchasing division be the tip of the spear on that, for the purposes of organizing and just kind of keeping those in one place, kind of keeping that master list. And so I've reached out to y'all to send me any that y'all had, and of course the commission, it's your prerogative to advance whichever ones you might want, but staff has no choice. If they receive one, it's to go directly to purchasing. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200 or $1, just for the purpose of keeping that master list. To make sure that everything is is transparent and above board, and we don't have any of these, unsolicited offers maybe get lost in the mix, or one person be accused of kind of keeping it. And so I intentionally kind of push that towards the purchasing division. So about
John,
15.
there's one less thing you got to worry about. If we can give it to Sean, it all goes in there. It's one less thing you got to do in the day. I like that.
Yes.
And I can tell you our division takes that cone of silence very seriously.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Any other questions for staff or each other? Oh, Commissioner Hughes, you're muted, sir.
That's right. That's right. My bad.
It's all good.
Does staff see any benefit in this? I mean, it's having this happen the same way every time, to me, is easier. It's predictable by how it operates, not the price, not the terms, not the deal, just the process. And if there's nothing redeeming about this and value to y'all, maybe we scrap it. But if there is, and we want to build on it, all I'm trying to do is open this up so that we can I'm looking to make my head stop spinning on this stuff and make it just be easier to process. And I just found that's the way everybody in my office read over this and they're like, that's exactly what needs to go. 25 of those people that sell that dirt.
I can say for the division, purchasing division, the direction we very much welcome. And the reason why is because you can go out with an RFP with very little parameters on it, and you're going to get a wide array of things submitted to us that you may not even be interested in. So having direction so that we can narrow those parameters and put things out so that someone, doesn't waste their time submitting something that we really aren't going to consider to begin with. But getting people and groups together, submitting the things that you guys are looking for helps that process. Otherwise, what you'll see is we'll go out for an RFP now. Maybe it's really general and it's structured that way on purpose, but maybe we don't get any submissions or we get one or two, and then it comes to the commission and the decision is we don't really want to go that direction. And so 6 months later, we got the same RFP going out again. And so having direction from you guys originally only helps, streamline that and help get to a solution the first time.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, we look forward to talking about this more in some of our one-on-one meetings with y'all to, kind of get some additional feedback and how we might want to put it forward and incorporate into our policy. And I don't know, Nevin, if it would kind of become like, I don't know if it would become, I don't think it would become an ordinance. It could just become a policy. And if we go in the purchasing manual,
We could, Sean was talking to me about it earlier. We
stick
could
it in the
put
purchasing manual.
purchasing.
And we do have, when we adopted our planning and zoning fees, beginning of fiscal year 24, I believe, we did have in there a $200 fee for unsolicited proposals that we haven't been collecting, but I don't know if that's something that y'all would be interested in.
Nope. Make it easy to do business in Panama City, not harder.
And I think the reason why we had originally done that was we were getting direction to do RFPs because they were being brought up in public that we wanted
Left and right.
Yeah. So the purchasing would put an RFP together, and literally the group that would be pushing that RFP would never even bid on the project at all. And so we were pushing RFPs out one after the other, getting no submissions, including the people who were asking for the RFPs. And so it was at some point to maybe get a little skin in the game to where they're really going to bid on the project.
Not really to be a big revenue generator, but to, that if someone is serious about entering into a proposition with the city, that they're serious about it by again, there being a small fee associated with that versus just because there is a lot of staff time that goes into this process. That's all. So it's already on the books. Mayor Branch, did you start to say something, sir? No, you didn't? No. All right. So we'll take a quick 5-minute break and then we have our next 2 hours coming up. No, I'm just kidding. So, all right. Well, yep, we've got a commission meeting tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. And so everyone
Double
get a good night-
meetings. Double
Yes.
meetings.
So
Yeah.
get a good night's sleep, and we will see you all tomorrow. So, Mr. Mayor, don't sleep in. 7 a.m. at City Hall.
See you later.
Right.
Don't be
Hey, guys, thanks for all your input on
Yeah.
this. I appreciate it. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.